The Heist Part 1. The night was alive with the hum of engines and the distant wail of sirens. In a dimly lit garage on the outskirts of the city, a group of individuals gathered around a holographic display. The leader, a seasoned driver named Alex, pointed to the blueprint of a high-security facility projected in the air. "All right, team," Alex said, his voice steady and confident. "This is it. The prototype car is housed in the central vault. We have a 15-minute window to get in, grab it, and get out before the security systems reboot." The crew nodded, each member focused and ready. There was Mia, the tech genius who could hack into any system, Jake, the muscle with a heart of gold, Lisa, the expert driver with nerves of steel, and Sam, the strategist who always had a backup plan. As they suited up and prepared their vehicles, the tension in the air was palpable. This heist was their biggest job yet, and failure was not an option. The convoy of sleek, modified cars sped through the city streets, weaving through traffic with precision. They reached the facility's perimeter and parked in a secluded spot. Mia quickly hacked into the security system, disabling the cameras and alarms. "You're clear," Mia said through the comms. "Move fast." The crew moved with military precision, scaling the walls and entering the facility through a ventilation shaft. They navigated the labyrinthine corridors, avoiding guards and security measures. Finally, they reached the central vault. Jake used his brute strength to pry open the heavy doors, revealing the prototype car, a sleek, futuristic vehicle that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie. "Let's get this beauty out of here," Lisa said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. As they wheeled the car out of the vault, an alarm suddenly blared. The facility's security systems had rebooted ahead of schedule. "Move, move, move!" Alex shouted. The crew sprinted back to their cars, the prototype in tow. They barely made it out of the facility before the guards arrived. The high-speed chase that followed was a blur of screeching tires, flashing lights, and heart-pounding adrenaline. Lisa took the lead, her expert driving skills keeping them ahead of their pursuers. Mia worked her magic, hacking into traffic lights and creating obstacles to slow down the chasing vehicles. Just when it seemed like they might escape, a helicopter appeared overhead, shining a spotlight on them. "Hang on!" Alex yelled. Lisa swerved into an underground tunnel, the helicopter losing sight of them. They emerged on the other side, the city skyline stretching out before them. "We did it," Jake said, a grin spreading across his face. But their celebration was short-lived. As they reached their hideout, they discovered a tracking device on the prototype car. "Looks like someone knew we were coming," Sam said, his expression grim. The hideout was a converted warehouse on the outskirts of the city, filled with an assortment of high-tech equipment and modified cars. The crew gathered around the prototype car, their expressions a mix of triumph and concern. The tracking device they had found was small but sophisticated, a clear sign that their heist had attracted some serious attention. Alex paced back and forth, his mind racing. "We need to figure out who planted this and why. Mia, can you trace it?" Mia nodded, already at her laptop. "Give me a few minutes." As Mia worked, the rest of the crew took a moment to catch their breath. Jake leaned against a workbench, his muscles still tense from the chase. Lisa checked the prototype car for any other surprises, while Sam reviewed the security footage they had captured during the heist. "Whoever these guys are, they knew we were coming," Sam said, his voice low. "This wasn't just a random security measure." Alex stopped pacing and looked at his team. "We need to be ready for anything. This isn't over." Mia's fingers flew over the keyboard, her eyes focused on the screen. "Got it. The signal is coming from an industrial area on the other side of town. Looks like a warehouse." "Great," Alex said. "Let's gear up and pay them a visit." The crew quickly prepared, checking their weapons and loading up their cars. They knew they were heading into enemy territory, but they had no choice. They needed answers. The drive to the industrial area was tense, the city lights blurring past as they sped through the streets. When they arrived, they parked a few blocks away and approached the warehouse on foot. The building was old and run down, but there were signs of recent activity: fresh tire tracks, security cameras, and guards patrolling the perimeter. "Looks like we're not the only ones interested in this place," Jake muttered. Alex signaled for the team to split up. "Mia, find a way to disable the cameras. Jake, Lisa, and Sam, you're with me. Let's move." Mia quickly hacked into the security system, disabling the cameras and creating a window for the team to slip inside. They moved silently, sticking to the shadows and avoiding the guards. Inside, the warehouse was a maze of crates and machinery. The crew moved cautiously, their senses on high alert. They reached a central office, where a group of men were gathered around a table, discussing something in hushed tones. Alex signaled for the team to take positions. "On my mark," he whispered. They burst into the room, weapons drawn. The men at the table froze, their eyes wide with surprise. "Who are you working for?" Alex demanded. One of the men, a tall figure with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. "You're making a big mistake," he said, his voice calm. "You have no idea what you're getting into." "Try me," Alex replied, his grip tightening on his gun. The man smirked. "We're just the middlemen. The real power is much higher up. But I can tell you this, you're in way over your heads." Before Alex could respond, the sound of sirens filled the air. The warehouse was suddenly bathed in red and blue lights as police cars surrounded the building. "Time to go!" Sam shouted. The crew made a hasty retreat, dodging bullets and evading the police as they raced back to their cars. They sped away, the sound of sirens fading into the distance. Back at the hideout, the crew regrouped, their minds racing with questions. Who were these men? And who was the real power behind them? "We need to lay low for a while," Alex said, his voice grim. "But we can't stop now. We need to find out who's behind this and why they're after us." The crew nodded, their resolve stronger than ever. They knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but they were ready for whatever came next. The crew's hideout was buzzing with tension. The recent encounter at the warehouse had left them with more questions than answers. They knew they needed help, and fast. Alex gathered the team around the central table, a holographic display showing a map of the city. "We need to find out more about this syndicate," Alex said. "And for that, we need allies. I know someone who might be able to help us, an old friend who has deep connections in the underground racing scene." "Who is this friend?" Lisa asked, her curiosity piqued. "His name is Marco," Alex replied. "We used to race together back in the day. If anyone knows what's going on in the city's underworld, it's him." The crew agreed to seek out Marco, hoping he could provide the information they needed. They split up, each taking a different route to avoid drawing attention. The rendezvous point was an old, abandoned racetrack on the outskirts of the city, a place where Marco often held underground races. When they arrived, the racetrack was alive with the roar of engines and the smell of burning rubber. Cars of all makes and models lined the track, their drivers preparing for the night's races. Alex spotted Marco near the starting line, talking to a group of racers. "Marco!" Alex called out, making his way through the crowd. Marco turned, a wide grin spreading across his face. "Alex! Long time no see, my friend." The two embraced, their camaraderie evident. Marco was a tall, muscular man with a rugged charm and a reputation for being one of the best drivers in the underground scene. "What brings you here?" Marco asked, his eyes scanning the rest of the crew. "We need your help," Alex said, his tone serious. "We're in some deep trouble, and we need information about a syndicate that's after us." Marco's expression turned grave. "I've heard whispers about a powerful group making moves in the city. They're dangerous, Alex. But if you're in, I'm in. Let's talk." The crew followed Marco to a secluded area of the racetrack, away from prying eyes and ears. Marco pulled out a tablet, displaying a series of files and images. "This syndicate is no joke," Marco explained. "They've been expanding their operations, taking over territories and eliminating anyone who stands in their way. They're involved in everything from illegal street racing to high-stakes heists." "Do you know who's leading them?" Sam asked. Marco shook his head. "Their leader is a mystery. But I do know they've been recruiting some of the best drivers and tech experts in the city. They're building an army, and they're not afraid to use it." "Sounds like we need to take them down before they get any stronger," Jake said, his fists clenched. "Agreed," Alex said. "But we can't do it alone. Marco, can you help us gather more intel and maybe even recruit some allies?" Marco nodded. "I can reach out to my contacts. There are plenty of racers and crews who would love to take a shot at these guys. But it's going to be risky." "We're used to risky," Lisa said with a smirk. Over the next few days, Marco and the crew worked tirelessly to gather information and build alliances. They attended underground races, met with other crews, and slowly pieced together the syndicate's operations. They learned about a major race that the syndicate was hosting, a race that could provide them with the opportunity they needed to strike a blow against their enemies. The night of the race arrived, and the crew prepared for their biggest challenge yet. They knew the syndicate would be watching, and they had to be ready for anything. As they lined up at the starting line, the tension was palpable. "Remember the plan," Alex said over the comms. "We win this race, we get the intel we need, and we take down the syndicate. Let's do this." The engines roared to life, and the race began. The crew navigated the treacherous course with skill and precision, their cars weaving through obstacles and opponents. The syndicate's drivers were fierce, but the crew was determined. As they neared the finish line, a new rival emerged, a mysterious driver in a sleek, black car who seemed to anticipate their every move. The race became a battle of wits and skill, each driver pushing their limits. In the end, it was Lisa who crossed the finish line first, her car skidding to a halt in a cloud of smoke. The crowd erupted in cheers, but the crew knew their victory was just the beginning. They had won the race, but the real fight was still ahead. With new allies and crucial information, they were ready to take on the syndicate and uncover the truth behind their enemies.